Excellency Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, His Excellency Mustafa Madbouli, the Honorable Prime Minister of the Arab Republic of Egypt, His Excellency Namadi Sambo, the former Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency and co-host, Mr. Tarek Ahmed, the Governor of the Central Bank of Egypt, Honorable Ministers, Governors of Central Banks, Heads of International Organizations, that here, international organizations in Africa, Your Excellencies, my colleagues at Afreximbank, and also our friends at CBE, the Central Bank of Egypt, my dear wife Chinelo, who is here with us, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you today to Egypt, the host country of Afreximbank, the land where history is made, the land that makes history. For about 7,000 years, Egypt has been shaping the history of mankind and helping to evolve its art, science, engineering, and architecture. From the pyramid and the Sphinx of Giza to the temples and tombs of Luxor, for the Suez Canal to the Aswan High Dam, Egypt never ceases to leave monuments of history. And today, in this new administrative capital, we've become living witnesses of another history of monumental proportions for mankind. We bear witness to a new administrative capital that rose miraculously from the desert sands in less than 7 years. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the notion that Africa cannot rise again has once again been debunked. We stand on the pedestal of the work done here in Egypt to say that we can if we dare. We thank His Excellency, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and his able government for hoisting the African flag high. Your Excellency, the successes you have achieved in Egypt, as well as during your tenure as the chairperson of the African Union in 20, that we can, with determination, on the enormous potential that abounds in Africa into a powerful force. At Afreximbank, we share your commitment to Africa. We put Africa first in whatever we do. When the Africa was left to fend. Amid these challenges, Afreximbank launched the Pandemic Trade Impact Mitigation Facility, and by December 2020, Africa had disbursed over $7 billion to governments, central and commercial banks, and SMEs. And as vaccine nationalism raged, and access to vaccines, function of how much money anybody put on the table, responded to the request of the African Union and worked with the vaccine acquisition task to put in place a $2 billion advanced procurement commitment guarantee facility that made it possible for Africa to acquire 400 million doses of Johnson & Johnson vaccines. Beyond the funding, Afreximbank worked with the AU to create the Africa Vaccine Acquisition Trust and the No Fault Compensation Scheme Trust as structural elements to underpin the vaccine transaction. These are now being institutionalized by the African Union as permanent structures for Africa's health security. Your Excellencies, the ongoing Ukraine crisis presents new challenges to Africa. Difficulties in accessing grains, fertilizers, and petroleum products have led to galloping inflation in many of our countries, which we are just about to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Mindful that Africa's problems are for Africans to solve, Afreximbank has once again stepped in and put in place a $4 billion facility to enable African countries to respond to the Ukraine crisis. It is therefore evident that Afreximbank has become a vital instrument for crisis intervention. The successes of the interventions reminds us of the urgency not only to support our own institutions, but to make them stronger and more effective. With its limited resources, Afreximbank made a significant impact in helping Africa to contain the pandemic. A stronger Afreximbank, and indeed a stronger group of African development finance institutions, can be one of the solid pillars on which Africa's development can be built. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, looking ahead, we can no longer accept that after 60 years of independence, Africa remains weak and economically fragmented. We can no longer the benefits of an integrated continent, but do to achieve it. Africa's systems, key to economic integration, are fragmented and disorderly. An Egyptian that wants to buy Kenyan coffee must find a third currency and make the payment through a complicated, time-consuming and costly process. If the Ugandan government wants to award a road contract to an Egyptian or South African, you must make sure it has foreign currency to pay for the works. The consequence is that trade is diverted and African contractors become disadvantaged in bidding for contracts within Africa. Similarly, a truck cannot travel and carry goods from Cairo to Cape Town without posting multiple transit bonds. And why is it that standards for simple goods used in Kenya are different from those in Senegal? Afreximbank is a firm believer that we can only begin to resolve these questions through aggressive pursuit of intra-African trade and supporting the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement implementation. And through our intra-African trade division, we have in the past 5 years disbursed over $20 billion in support of intra-African trade. and we plan to double this figure in the next 5 years, thanks to the capital increase that is in process, and thanks for the Egyptian shareholders for supporting that capital increase. And in doing these disbursements, we're also supporting African contractors to bid for African infrastructure-related projects. Over the last few years, 4 years or so, about $12 billion of such projects have been supported. Your Excellency, we are proud that the Egyptian contractors have been our strong partners in this effort, working with us to build critical infrastructure across Africa. For instance, we supported the largest intra-African EPC contract amounting to $2.9 billion for the development of the Rufiji Dam in Tanzania that will produce over 2,000 megawatts of electricity. SWD and Arab contractors, both of Egypt, were the main contractors. We are supporting Egyptian contractors building solar power plants in South Sudan and DRC, gas-fired power plants in Angola and Zambia, and other power, ports and road infrastructure projects elsewhere in Africa. We thank Hassan Alam, SWD Electric, Orascom Construction, Wadi Digla, Sandcrete, and other Egyptian contractors that we are working with in trying to deliver projects across Africa. Similar support have also gone to other contractors, including Water and Jail in Angola and some Burkinabe contractors doing road and other infrastructure projects in West Africa. Permit me to provide an update on some of the AFCFTA and continental integration initiatives that His Excellency, President Al-Sisi, mandated us to deliver during his AU chairmanship in 2019. I am pleased to report that we have now completed the pilot phase and launched the commercial operations of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. 8 African central banks and over 45 commercial banks have joined the system, and quite a number are in the pipeline. So African currencies, we can now trade amongst ourselves using African currencies, thereby domesticating intra-African trade payments and potentially saving the continent over $5 billion in transfer charges when fully implemented. A major positive impact of this payment system will be a potential reduction in external debt incurred by African countries as they invest in infrastructure. With PAPS, that's the payment system, the Ugandan government I mentioned earlier can pay an Egyptian contractor in Ugandan shilling, and the Egyptian contractor will receive Egyptian pounds. Afreximbank will clear the payments, clear the transactions, and we're backing them with currently $500 million with plans to raise to $3 billion. Your Excellencies, we've also made progress regarding introducing a collaborative transit guarantee scheme. The bank has now been admitted as a regional transit guarantor in the commercial region and expects to soon expand coverage over the entire continent. We can now reasonably be confident that when the Cape to Cairo road, championed by you, Your Excellency, becomes effective, that the truck driver carrying goods from Cape to Cairo can only do so with one transit bond. It does not need to stop at every border. Our board has also approved a limit of $1 billion to make sure that this facility is effective and makes trade smooth and seamless. Mindful that it is access to information that will help bring down the borders that fragment the continent, we and the AFCFTA Secretariat have made significant progress towards implementing the digital AFCFTA project called the Africa Trade Gateway. This service complements the highly successful Biennial Inter-African Trade Fair launched here in Egypt in 2018 by Afreximbank, the African Union, and the AFCFTA Secretariat. We are providing trade confirmation lines and correspondent banking services to African banks to support intra and extra-African trade. So far, the bank has onboarded nearly 500 African banks and opened credit lines for 170 in 38 countries. About $4 billion in limits have been created. We target to give $8 billion in limits. Today, Afreximbank boasts of the largest network of connected African banks to ensure that no country is deprived of trade services on the continent. And as international banks continue to withdraw from Africa, Afreximbank is developing a strategy to support strong African banks to fill the void, so that African financial markets can be in the hands of Africans. The Chinese in the hands of Chinese, European system is in the hands of Americans, system in the hands of Americans. The African system must be in the hands of Africans. We are pleased to be working with Bank MIS, National Bank of Egypt, Bank Ducaire, Vista Bank, Coris Bank, Oakwood Green, and other banks on the continent as we pursue this continental strategy. I'm pleased to report that financial performance remained total revenue $1 billion in 2019 and has risen notwithstanding the challenges. Net income rose by 25% in 2021 to reach $381 million, and total assets and guarantees reached $25 billion at the end of 2021. Capitalization is strong, with shareholders' funds rising from $3.4 billion in December 2020 to $4 billion by December 2021. Due to the general capital increase endorsed by the African Union and launched in 2021, new equity raised have now exceeded $1 billion. And when adjusted for the discount, it's now exceeded $1.25 billion. We are targeting to raise additional $2.6 billion. So we are almost halfway, just a few months after launching the capital increase. I would like to thank the shareholders, African Union member states, for being very, very supportive of this process. We invite you to contribute to, because as we know, it's a stronger Afreximbank, stronger development finance institutions in Africa that can make the difference. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I close, join me in extending our appreciation to His Excellency, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, under whose auspices these meetings are holding. I would also like to express our appreciation to all shareholders, our board of directors, His Excellency Mustafa Madbuli, Honorable Prime Minister, Excellency Vice President Sambo of Nigeria, all the governors of central banks, ministers who are here with us, the members of the press, and all those who have worked very hard to make it possible, especially our friends at the central bank. Also like to thank our shareholders through our chairman, Minister Mike. To all our guests, many of whom are also our business and development partners, we say a big thank you. And finally, to my lovely wife, I say thank you for being here. You're always there in good.